the House passed a police reform bill that you sponsored, named after George Floyd. Why do you think this bill is so important? And do you think it will get support in the U.S. Senate?
Well, first of all, I was very happy that the bill wound up being bipartisan. We weren't sure it was going to be, but it was bipartisan. We had 3 Republican votes. We were excited about that. Every Democrat had voted for the bill. And it was a historic piece of legislation because these issues regarding policing and the African American population, these issues are as old as the institution of policing itself. Policing in the United States began with the enslavement period of the first police officers. Their job was to go find people who they thought had escaped enslavement. And so the idea that it took hundreds of years for the U.S. to come to a reckoning over this issue, I thought in '92 it was going to be resolved because the beating was on videotape. Then cell phone cameras were invented years ago, and there has been murder after murder, beating after beating on camera. But I think that George Floyd's murder was just a bridge too far.
And as you know, the protests over the police brutality here in the U.S. and racial injustice in the U.S. have inspired protests around the world, including in Africa. So for our African audience and viewers, what can they take from this movement, particularly in parts of the continent where police brutality and even extrajudicial killings are commonplace?
Well, I think that they can take how important it is to have mass movements because we moved within 30 days to do this piece of legislation. Literally, it was 30 days after the murder of George Floyd. And our legislative body can take 30 years. We can take 30 years or 30 days. But because of the social pressure, we had to move quickly, and that's why we were able to get it done last night. The protesters, we need them to continue protesting. Of course, we want it to be peaceful, but I will tell you that it was their victory last night.
Just quickly to reference 1992 beating, is it
Rodney 1992 was Rodney King. And when the videotape surfaced in 1991, most people felt, well, that was just, everybody saw what happened. He was lucky he wasn't killed. And so I think that we thought the problem was solved then because we had been saying for years what the police were doing and people didn't believe us. And there was no denying George Floyd.
Is there anything you think that the U.S. can learn from places like South Africa with apartheid in the past?
Right. I do. And I mean, you know, actually the interesting thing is that when the apartheid regime was being set up, they flew over here to the United States and studied Jim Crow. And so they mirrored their system after what we had here. So there is that connection between South Africa and the United States. And I think us looking at truth and reconciliation would be a very good thing. And several members of the Congressional Black Caucus have legislation to call for reconciliation commissions.